Good evening. We're going to start our meeting now. This is Administration and Public Works Committee, and calling the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of March 10. Okay. Any discussion or changes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Next, we have one person signed up for two topics on public comment. Mr. Rizki?
Do you want me to speak to both topics or just one?
No,
Just
you may speak to both of them.
All right. All right. On the
Let
first,
us know when you change topics.
all right, that's fine. On the first topic is really the lining of.
Address, please.
I'm
Name
sorry,
and address.
Janad Risky, 2784 Sheridan. The first topic I'm going to speak to is the lining of the sewer pipes. I think I've spoken on this once before. The issue with this lining, it's a highly toxic process. It's not so environmentally friendly, but the issue is really when you do this in certain people's homes, maybe not connected correctly to the system, the vapors can get into their homes. I said this last time, it was sort of poo-pooed, but I know one of the contractors who I happen to know, and I don't know if he bid in Evanston here, told me he was sued up in Winnetka because the vapors did go into somebody's home. So the city has sort of an obligation to inform residents what they're doing when they're doing it, so people at least can take some precautions to make sure that the vapors don't get in their homes. If they have drains that are, or traps that are dry, the city should take a responsibility to inform them. You know, I spoke about the transformers here, the transponders once, and really you told the staff to inform the public and they never did either, so I don't know what will happen with this, but the transponders are the things that read the water meter. Remember, over 1,000 residents didn't have transponders that were working and they got erroneous bills. So that was, you know, just the staff is not responding. So what do you tell them? And I'm going to move on to the next topic, though, which is the Finnish water reservoir. Let me see here. What I continue to find interesting in the water reservoir study is we keep on changing what the technical story as we go along. This document tonight that you're going to be presented with to basically approve a study basically wasn't really ever discussed or brought even forth, but now the staff went out and bid this document and offered these 6 options. I think it's very interesting now the clear wells have come up in all this, and really this wasn't discussed for 4 years, that they needed work, and now all of a sudden they need work. So I think it's very interesting how things keep changing here. The technical story keeps changing. It's troubling to me as to what we're doing. And one of the things I found interesting is all the information really being given to the council. It states in the study that, for instance, in the proposal that this tank can wait 5 years to do anything with. Well, both consultants, the one I believe states the tank needs to be repaired rather quickly within a year. The other consultant I believe said if you don't repair it, you're going to have to spend a lot of money monitoring the tank with engineering reports over the next several years. So I don't know that what's being done here makes a lot of sense. The other issue I have is some of these options. I think tonight the water department should come up here and go through each option and say what they're hoping to get out of each option. I mean, one of the options I find quite disturbing is we're going to take out a park. Well, nobody's been told in the community we're going to dig up an entire park and vacate it for probably 2 years and dig a big hole in it so nobody can use the park over in the 7th Ward. So, I mean, that's one of the options to be studied. Well, will the community stand for that option? Has anybody even discussed this? This is where children play soccer. But I mean, I drive by there probably every few days, and I know what's going on there. So there's a lot of people using it. And is that even a good option? Why are we even looking at that option? So that really, to me, is troubling how this has been done, how it's been approached. Why aren't each one of these options discussed by the water department for you to say yay or nay to, really? Or you have any approval? Now we're wasting taxpayer money on a study that really doesn't make a lot of sense. I think My other issue, and I keep on getting back to this, there were 2 reports prepared. And this one report here is by Carl Walker. This report was prepared. Have the aldermen seen this report? Have the aldermen seen the CTL report that was prepared by the city? City of Evanston probably spent, I don't know the number and I can FOIA it, but I suspect they spent $30,000 to $50,000 for this. Northwestern University prepared this report from Carl Walker at their expense, not even at our expense, the taxpayers of Evanston, and this is on the reservoir. This report is a very detailed report. They did forensic engineering and took part of the tank off. Has anybody seen these reports? Let me just read the final conclusion in this report to you. And it's very interesting, and it's about it's several paragraphs here, but I think it says it all, basically. Previous reports have recommended addressing the deterioration by demolishing and replacing the entire roof slab and drop panels. The estimates of the cost range between $3.8 to $6.7 million. While this is a robust option with a long service life, it is also expensive and would shut down the facility for a significant length of time while repairs are completed. In addition to the original concrete base structure, walls and columns would still be present. We believe a less intrusive repair approach could be implemented and would extend the service life of the structure additional 15 to 20 years, and I think 20 years is more than plus, that would allow the water utility to develop replacement options or plan construction of a new reservoir in another different location. As described in the recommendations section, the approach would involve removal of the fill, removal of the existing freeze-thaw deteriorated concrete at the level of the roof slab, and the installation of a new concrete slab on top of the existing slab. The new slab would be properly designed to support the existing slab and prevent surface water infiltration into the existing slab, minimizing the water saturation of the existing slab. This would address the severe freeze-thaw deterioration of the top of the existing structure and significantly slow down further freeze-thaw deterioration of the remainder of the existing roof structure. So basically what they're saying, and I'm not going to continue on, but basically, because there's quite a bit, but it's basically saying you're reusing this. They even are calling this a green option. Since we like green here, we seem to spend so much time and effort on green. They call this a very green option because you're basically not tearing the whole thing apart. And in their opinion, the cost of this is $2.5 to $3.5 million, which I suspect would be less possibly than even what they'd probably be in the low end, because you're not really doing much and you're putting this structure out of service, they're saying, for 1 month. So why are we doing all these studies? Why are we wasting $86,000 when we probably should be doing the engineering just to fix the top? If you want to and pretend later on you're going to need a bigger tank, you'll have this tank and you can add another tank if you want, but I don't believe you're going to need it. So this is what's going on here. And as I think some people, we all know now, there are some politics involved here as to why we need a new tank. So we won't go into that right now, but I think this committee has a lot of questions they should be asking the water department as to why we're using our money like this, $86,000, and really what we're going to get out of this. And finally, I know I'm probably taking a little more time, but the issue is I don't feel these guys haven't even told you how big they need this new structure. They don't know. They haven't said how many gallons the study's for the new tank in this. So what are the consultants doing? I don't understand this. So there's a lot here that needs to be questioned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very enlightening. As the chair's prerogative, I am going to ask for a detailed response to that. I found that very interesting. I also want to know about the in situ form, chemical, whatever. I mean, I don't know if it's toxic. Could somebody tell us? And by the time we meet as a council, I think we should get some responses to the last critique. The critique of the reservoir that he just read from the previous consultant's report. That was Northwestern's report, right?
Yes, that was Carl Walker's report.
Right, Walker's report. Okay. Yeah, no, I am, for everybody, yeah, for the, when everybody's here. Yeah. Thank you.
Good evening, Dave Stoneback, Utilities Director. I'm not sure which question. Oh,
All of it, all of it. Every accusation he made, every point he made, every critique. Want to know about everything. But start with the toxicity of in situ form chemical, whatever they use to line the pipes.
The resin that they use I'm not sure it would be called toxic, but at a high enough level,
That's what I want you to talk about. Is it
Okay.
or isn't it?
it is not at a high enough level when they do this type of work to cause any problem. It does have a very strong odor, and we do send out a newsletter before we do each project advising the residents to fill their floor traps with water to prevent the odor from coming into their property. It's done on a routine basis and has been for the last several years.
I mean, I know, I think I voted on the first contract in such a form years and years ago. But what about the lawsuit? I mean, I know anybody can sue anybody for anything, but what was the basis of that lawsuit?
I'm unfamiliar with the lawsuit.
Okay. Maybe our legal department knows that. Peter, Alderman Braithwaite?
Thank you. Dave, quick question. So we had a community meeting with a number of neighbors a couple of months ago where we were talking about doing a lining project with the main water.
Yes.
Water main. What's the difference between the two liners?
The type of resin that's used to cure the pipe is different.
Okay.
So what's used in the sewer line does not need to meet potable water standards. So it's a different type of process
Okay.
that's utilized.
Okay, do you,
I have a question.
just turn your light on. Alderman Holmes?
Director Stumway, I always try to send out all the information that you send, whether it's on, that's why I was asking him about the transformers, because I thought you sent something to us, and I try to send out on my email, but I'm thinking that if there's going to be the need for a resident to put water wherever to avoid this odor, maybe rather than a routine email, that we should have something that would bring it, maybe more to their attention so that they wouldn't get the possibility of the odors in their homes. I'm thinking, what else could we do in terms of, maybe it's an alert kind of thing rather than just a routine email?
It's a newsletter that gets hand-delivered
I
to each of the homes. But
I understand
in addition to the newsletter about the construction, you're suggesting
Yeah, maybe
that we have
in
a
a-
separate alert about the...
Yeah, just so that we could
You can
avoid.
really highlight it in the newsletter, because the only people getting the newsletter are the people who are having the work done in their neighborhood, right?
Yeah, right.
That's correct,
Yeah.
and that's the only people, to my knowledge, that have ever smelled the odor
Right.
as the work went
So
on.
what about if they did that in red or,
That's what I'm
big-
saying, something
yeah,
to make it
highlight
much
yellow.
more,
Yeah.
to catch the attention of the residents, because sometimes, unfortunately, and I do it myself, you may glance at it, you may not, in terms of when it comes. So, but if it has something that says alert or, please read or anything like that, then I'm more apt to look at it. And I'm assuming that other people would do the same, rather than just a
We will
routine
make that
newsletter.
modification. Thank you for the suggestion.
Okay, so that takes care of that. Then, when we meet, is that okay, when we meet as a council to talk about the consulting project?
Yeah. I was actually just going to ask Mr. Risky to submit, you shared a lot, and I was trying to keep notes. If you could just submit your questions.
No, he had the Walker Consulting report. He was reading from
But he was
it.
going all over.
Yeah, but that's what he was reading from.
But Dave didn't have it because Dave reported to us on that
Right.
report. I
Yeah.
remember that.
I just want him to submit his questions, that's all.
Oh, okay.
I did not submit the Walker report to you. As Mr. Erskine indicated, it was paid for
You
by
talked to us about it.
Northwestern University. The copy that I have, the copy that Mr. Erskine has is stamped draft. On that, I don't feel that it was appropriate for Evanston to post it on its website when it's, the only copy I have is stamped draft.
All right. The
I-
point here is, this is out there now, okay? We have information that I don't remember or didn't commit to memory earlier. And now it's in my head, and I'm going to be wondering every time I see this project, what are the answers to those questions? And we have the questions all on tape. I don't think we need something written up. So we need to do a comparative analysis between what he's saying and what the new consultant is going to be specified to do.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we're happy to talk in detail this evening, either at committee or at the full council about this. Again, what we're trying to do with the contract that's on the agenda tonight is to make sure that you have the information. So it's difficult to have information before we have information. We have been talking to you about the needs with this reservoir. I think we've been having these discussions largely because we have unanswered questions. And rather than give you partial answers, we want to give you complete answers. So a portion of this has been the work that Northwestern has done. A portion of this has been the work we have done. We still don't feel we have a good enough answer. That's the reason why we're asking with the contract on the agenda this evening to provide additional data to you before you make a decision. Because I think once you decide to do this, this is a major project. We've shared with you, I think probably starting back in October of last year, that this was a major project. And so we want to have you to have all the information that you need to make a decision, and we're still not there. I think the information we have from Northwestern is another piece of information. I think we're going to continue to get conflicting information, and what we would like to do is have this contract move forward that's on the agenda this evening for another set of information. And at that point, if you'd like, we'd be happy to do a table that says, here's the initial work we've done, here's the work that Northwestern has done, here's the work that our consultant has done with all this additional information, and now here are the options to actually move forward with the project.
I just want, what I want to make sure of is that the consultant that we're hiring is going to address the issues that were in the Walker report.
And it sounds like a
one of the
table of some sort
alternatives.
would make a lot of sense, so that you have the benefit of all this information. Because at the end of the day, this is all about making sure that the city council has the information you need to make decisions.
I think the contract is extremely important that we pass it, but it has to be all-inclusive. When I was reading it, I was thinking what was presented to us. You know, I mean, is there going to be a bias here? You know, that's what my concern is, that it be as neutral and as open. This company has worked on our stuff for years. Can they look at it, you know?
Well, and I think that the
neutral
field option that is included in this is included largely so that you have all the information. I think we've had discussions with you previously, which has indicated that our bias is likely not to dig up that field, having to raise that field, take that field out of commission for an extended period of time, but we want it completely studied so that you have the benefit of having all that information.
Alderman Grover.
I was just saying, now that we've sidetracked to actual agenda item A3.3, shall I just move it in so that we can continue the discussion, or do you want to? Well, I mean, it is the discussion, and I had some questions related to this, and.
You know what, sometimes we let citizen comment go first, sometimes
Sure.
we don't. The next chairman can do whatever they want, but right now I want to hear the rest of this, okay?
Well,
Then we're
right.
going to go to the bills list, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. Then I'll save my questions on this item for when we're talking about this item, for real.
Don't go away. It's gonna have questions. All right?
All right, thank you.
I just want to make sure that everything is going to be covered in this report. I saw all the options, all the alternate. I just want to make sure that questions like this don't get out in the press and then never get answered.
Well, and they've been out since last October when the city council paid a visit to the facility.
But
So,
now
I mean,
push
we've-
has come to shove, so now it's important to everybody, and we're, you know, I mean, the project's upon us pretty soon, so I don't think it's insignificant that we're concerned about that.
And I would only add that, again, this is an iterative process, and one of the challenges we sometimes have in Evanston is when do we start talking about something? And again, we've talked about something perhaps too long before we've actually even had the
That might be
information
it.
to get that. And so
might be
we
it.
try to err on the side of making you and the community aware of the issues, and when we do it, sometimes comes back and bites us, because then people question, why are we doing this?
No, as long as all the information is out there and everybody, I mean, as long as they have the Walker report, I mean, it sounds to me like there's only 2 copies of this report in the whole world. You have one and he has one, I mean.
Right, and it wasn't our report.
I know, but it's out there. He's got it. We don't have it. That doesn't seem right for some reason. I don't know about you, but I just think if Janad has a report, I ought to have it
Well,
too.
and
Especially
Madam Chair,
being
we'll
on
have that, and again, I think it goes back to
It's a draft.
when do you start talking about something
I don't know.
before you start talking about something, before you
Well,
start talking about something? And that's our
I think when
challenge
the
here.
community starts talking about it, we better keep talking about it. All right, so let's move on. We're
Thank
gonna-
you.
Thank you very much. Who would have thought? Alderman Burrs.
I'm going to do A1 and A2. I ask your approval of City of Evanston payroll through March 9th, 2014, the amount of $2,702,907.62.
Move approval.
Second.
And I ask your approval of the City of Evanston bills through March 25th, 2014, the amount of $2,513,982.69. Thank you.
I just want to comment on the bills, especially the part about the J.D. Edwards New World financial system. You know I've asked before about how is that going, and it always seems like it's going beautifully, and now we find out that, I mean, maybe it's not going so beautifully. Maybe it is now, like you say, you've caught up. But how can a consultant allow for, jumping over a few steps to do the payroll when the financial system wasn't, the groundwork for the payroll system wasn't installed? I mean, I think that's very interesting.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Marty Lyons, Chief Financial Officer. I would echo your sentiment completely. We asked this question clearly because at the time we were very concerned. This would have been a year ago almost. This payroll, almost a year ago, we said the J.D. Edwards system has been hiccuping, to use a technical term, and we don't like that. We need to get payroll out every other week. And we asked that question clearly, what would happen if we switched? And they said, well, you can do that, and here's how we would do it. And it was very disheartening on our part, and that's why we're watching the contract very closely. As I noted in the memo, a lot of the configuration work we would have done anyway, but we did have things a little bit out of order. The financial management system, it's really two types of systems, HR and payroll system and financial management. It's working exactly as presented. So from that perspective, we're very happy. We've run a first parallel, as noted in the memo, and that's been working very well. Yes, you have, when you have 800 full-time equivalent employees, so over 1,000 employees with different benefit codes, et cetera, we're going to have some hiccups where we thought we told the system X, but it is moving forward now according to schedule. I will provide a report at the end of May to say here's how payroll HR has run, meaning that we should be at go live date, so that the council can rest assured that the system has gone in according to the contract.
Are we receiving any pushback from the consultants for New World about the extra time it took?
Not at this time, and we have preemptively sent message to them to say, we've spent a lot of time on this project, and from that perspective, we see that we both were a little inefficient in the HR process, so we don't want any discussion about increases, change orders, et cetera, because they had some changes in staff, we had some changes in staff, and both sides stepped up later on in the process. We had staff working all summer long, but they went through we had a change in project manager, and we had a different trainer come out. So we've had they had some changes at their level that I think contributed to us falling behind. So we've got everything documented, and we will stay on top of the project. I am very committed to, and so is the rest of the admin staff, to not have this project go over. We've already gone over on the time, so we're not happy about that.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we're doing everything humanly possible, so.
And we do hope that this summer that we'll have e-pay, meaning that the employees will put in their own timesheets, and we will have done a lot of things that you see just in your daily banking or things of that nature, that the system will be more efficient because we will have less people doing work over and over and over.
That's good. All right, thank you. All right, all those in favor of recommending the bills to the council, say aye. Aye. Okay. A31,
I move approval of a contract with CTR Systems for our 2014 CIPP Spotline Sewer Rehabilitation Project in the amount of $48,114.
did you have any questions on this one, Alderman Grover?
No, not this one.
All those in favor of recommending this purchase to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chair, I recommend approval of 2014 CIPP sewer rehabilitation contract with Instaform Technologies USA in the amount of $318,889.40.
Second.
Any further discussion on this one? No?
You have questions?
Yes.
Just to emphasize, Mr. Riske said during citizen comment that he thought this was highly toxic, and he is alleging it's highly toxic, and I'm pretty certain, and Mr. Stoneback can confirm, that the city would never intentionally expose anyone to anything that was highly toxic, either residents or those who work with the substance.
And would you like to comment on the information about running the water, et cetera?
I think Mr. Stoneback can
there
help
you
us
are.
with that.
Good evening, Dave Stoneback, Utilities Director. When they use the CIPP lining, they use a product called styrene. And as it heats up, that's what changes it from a liquid into a solid state and forms new pipe within the existing pipe. It's a product that's been used in the fiberglass industry for many years, and at a high concentration, it can be toxic. But at the concentration that they use it in the sewer application, it is not toxic. However, it is very pungent in smell, and people do smell it in their home. But no one, to my knowledge, has ever gotten sick from it. Nobody's ever gotten hurt from it in the sewer lining process. I'm unaware of any lawsuit that's taken place. We have a resident in Evanston that's very concerned about this as well, Mrs. Shapiro, who lives right by where the MWRD did several sewer main lining, and she had this right in front of her home on 3 different contracts, and they were lining the large 84-inch and 60-inch diameter pipes, and she would smell this odor. We've had other people smell the odor in their homes as well. Sometimes it's an apartment building, and the trap within the apartment building isn't done properly, or it isn't flumed out through the pipe chase properly. However, to my knowledge, again, nobody's that I'm aware of has ever been sick or injured using this process. And like you, Alderman Rainey, I've been a witness to these projects since 1984 when we began doing it.
And given the number of residents and businesses and proximity to these sewer relining projects over the years, you can probably count on 2 hands the number of residents who have, on one hand, the number of residents who have contacted me in the last 5 years with questions about it, much less complaints about it. So it's really a de minimis thing.
Correct.
Well, it's something that has to be explained once the charge is made. So.
And I agree, and it is something that we are concerned about, and that's why, since we started the process, every one of our newsletters has indicated means of trying to keep the odor out of your home. We will step that up by either making it in a bold, because we generally don't put newsletters out in color. You know, it's only on the website in color, but we copy in black and white. We'll put it in bold in a larger font to make sure that everybody can see that portion of it, that it will stand out.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of recommending this to the council, say aye. Any opposed? Alderman Braithwaite? A33?
Madam Chair, I move item A 3.3, approval of the agreement for CDM Smith for reservoir and Clearwell planning study. Staff is recommending City Council authorize the city manager to execute an agreement of the reservoir and Clearwell Planning Study with CDM Smith in the amount of 86,359.
All right, been moved in second. Alderman Grover?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Stoneback, if you don't mind, with some help on this as well, one of the things that came up during citizen comment is a question about whether we really understood what our water storage needs are. From my reading of the RFP that's included in the packet, the number one question that we're looking to be answered by our consultants is to evaluate the finished water storage needs for Evanston using industry best management practices and regulatory requirements. So that would seem to help us understand what the universe is for our water storage needs as a preliminary step for anything, whether it be serving residential customers or pursuing the option of contracts and water sales to our neighbors.
That is correct. And again, Evanston is in a unique situation where 80% of our water does go to our wholesale water customers. The standard rule of thumb would be to provide 15% of your plant-rated capacity on-site storage. However, our contract with the Northwest Water Commission clearly states that they are not interested in increasing our reservoir storage because they have their own 25 million gallon reservoir, and therefore we hadn't really looked at potentially increasing our own storage. There are several conditions existing that create the situation here. The reservoir that's across the street, or Clearwell, whatever you want to call it, we cannot pump it all the way down. Our pumps lose suction while there's still 3 feet of water in that structure. So therefore, although it says we have 9.4 million gallons of stored water there, usable, we have less. So those are all options that we're considering as we take on this reservoir study.
And the alternatives for water storage, all the different items that are listed here that our consultants will help us evaluate, those are really thinking broadly about what all of our options are, being creative about how we envision water storage to assist our plant and our capacity needs, rather than assuming that we only have one or two options. It serves our interest to really be more creative and innovative about how we look at water storage. Am I right? So that's why Loveless Park, which, by the way, is in the 6th, Leahy Park, in the 7th Ward, would be a potential site for water storage because of where it's positioned. And
Correct. At Leahy Park we have a 48-inch diameter transmission main that runs from the water plant to Leahy Park, and that splits into two 36-inch mains, both of which go towards Skokie as well. So that would be a potential site to put a reservoir
so
in.
just an option, but we are a long, long way of ever doing anything close to breaking ground at Leahy Park.
That is absolutely correct. We are just exploring
If
different
that's even
options.
So we won't be having a neighborhood meeting next month.
No, we won't. Right.
And item alternate 6 is based on the Walker report.
Right.
Alternate 6 was included to rehabilitate the existing roof in place using the post-tension method that's defined in the Walker report.
And part of this will be aggregating all the studies that we have already,
Including what?
including what's been discussed so far, so that we can understand what the universe is,
That is correct. And
all the information, which
And,
hasn't been done yet. Am I right? We
That's
haven't done this yet.
correct. And the reports, including the report on the 1913 Clearwell, the ones that the city of Evanston completed, all those reports are made available on the city's website and are available to all residents and aldermen to review. Again, I felt a little awkward with the Walker report. I was FOIA'd for it. I was told to release it, but it's not my product. I've asked for a non-draft copy. I told them we were happy with it. Could they please provide us a complete report? I don't have that at this point in time. Once I do, it would be something that we would put on the website.
Good, thank you. Okay, anything else? Any other, Alderman Braithwaite?
Dave, just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
I was just noticing the waiver request for the 7.7, and so I like the mix of different businesses. And seeing that it doesn't qualify for the LEP program, I was just thinking, what is the status of our apprentice program?
The apprentice program at the Utilities Department,
Right, you're supposed to hire 2 apprentices.
we in this year's budget, we hire 4 apprentices.
Okay, nice
So
surprise, thank you.
we have 4 apprentices. working for us currently, and as indicated in the previous report, we'd look to hire another one, a fifth apprentice.
Good. Okay.
And as an aside, I met one of our apprentices. Funny story, on Thursday night at an event, and I was doing a tour of Temperance Beer.
Oh.
And loaded up this.
Where's
softball
Temperance Beer
question.
located? I'm sorry.
It's in the second ward.
Just checking.
And lobbed this softball question to the beer maker, and I asked her about the quality of Evanston water. Does it make good beer? And she hit a home run on it, of course. And the guy in front of me turned around and said, "Well, I'm an apprentice at the water department, and I'm really glad you asked that question." It was Pablo, and yeah, it was great. I think we need to do some advertising on the quality of Evanston water when it comes to making
When it
beer.
comes to beer, yeah.
Yeah. And distilled spirits.
Good for anything. Our water's good for everything. Well, some of us were drinking Temperance beer on Saturday, so.
Yes, indeed.
All right, we've got that covered now.
We definitely have drinking covered.
Water and beer. All right, all those in favor of recommending A 3.3 to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I move approval to authorize the city manager to execute a renewal of the annual sole source maintenance and support agreement for the term March 1st, 2014 through February 28th, 2015 with Harris Computer Systems for Harris North Star utility billing software in the amount of $42,698.96.
Okay, any discussion of this? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending to the council, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next. Alderman Grover.
Approval of the purchase of 2 replacement vehicles for our utilities department in the total amount of $167,808 from Curry Motors and from Rush Truck Center. Thank you.
Any discussion of these 2 purchases? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending to the council, say aye. Any opposed? A36.
Approval of the purchase of 8 police replacement vehicles from Curry Motors for 2014 in the amount of $212,104.
Any discussion of this? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move item 3.7, approval of the contract renewal with Harvey Communications, Inc. for emergency lighting and sirens in the dollar amount of $68,973.60.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? A38.
I move approval to authorize the city manager to execute a 1-year contract extension for Orzinga Ready Mix Concrete for a total of $64,000 for the fiscal year 2014 purchase of concrete.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chair, it's a 3.9. I move approval of an agreement with Infrastructure Engineering for engineering services for Central Street Improvement Project in the amount of $297,950.
Second.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? No? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
A3.10, approval of the 2014 motor tax, fuel tax, street resurfacing construction contract with Chicago Land Paving in the amount of $1,119,900.
Okay.
Second.
The streets that are going to be paved were listed, the ones
they were-
with the motor fuel are in our packet.
They're in the packet.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move item 3.11, approval of additional project funding for Safe Routes to School sidewalk replacement and curve extension construction project.
All right, this is a little extra money here. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? A4.
I move approval to authorize the city manager to execute change order number 2 for the SCADA system upgrades with Allen Integrated Control Systems. This final change order will decrease the total value of the contract by $17,012.77 and increase the total contract time by 335 days.
Second.
I'd like somebody to come talk about this. What was the problem up front? Or was there one? Or am I just reading things into this?
Madam Chairperson, members of the committee, my name is Laura Biggs. I'm the Superintendent of Construction for the Utilities Department. So the contractor experienced some challenges staffing the project appropriately. And as with any computer contract, there were also some issues just in general with the software and IT and getting everything debugged properly. However, the project is complete now. It is working properly. And the dollar value that for CDM's extra time to be able to finish this project, they actually finished the work under budget, and so it doesn't necessitate a change order to increase their overall contract limit in order to be able to incorporate it, but it is work that we would not necessarily have had to pay them had the contractor had better experience doing project documentation. So the work that we ended up having CDM Smith do was actually completing drawings and doing written documentation. The contractor was perfectly good at installing hardware and doing the programming of the computer system, but was not really practiced at doing the written documentation that we're going to rely on for the next 20 years to be able to make changes to the project.
I mean, we evaluate these people. How did we get this contract? I'm not talking about CDM. That's not an issue at all. But Allen Integrated Control Systems.
They had good references, and in fact, they do quite a lot of work for the city of Chicago, Fox Sanitary District. They do. They just finished a project up in Wilmette.
But I'm not asking you how good they are. I'm asking you why. How did we miss the boat on the things that they're not experienced in?
I suspect that we are requiring a level of documentation that is beyond what they have typically done, that generally they've done some very specific installations on wholesale control systems, but they have not necessarily had to do this level of documentation, that in other contracts it was structured differently, so the engineering firm was doing it. We put it onto the contractor, and they just struggled with getting it done. That was delaying the completion of the overall project to the point that it just became an unhappy circumstance for all of us. So we just finished the project and agreed to do it this way.
All right. All right, thank you. Anybody else? Any questions? All those in favor of recommending the A4 purchase to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next.
Madam Chair, I move Resolution 17R14, amendments to our fiscal year 2013 budget, which increases the budget by $2,278,752 to a total amount of $256,214,008.
All right. We'll get an explanation of where all these dollars are coming from, which is good news. So. All right. All those in favor of recommending the resolution to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? A6.
Approval of the grant agreement with the Illinois Historic Preservation Agency to inventory and record landmark properties located outside of the local historic district. I guess I better do all of this because this came back. Staff recommends the council authorize the city manager to sign a grant agreement for $53,200 with the agency. The grant is $37,240 to be reimbursed to the city with the city's match of $15,960. That was what was before. The city has decreased the city's financial expenditure to $3,900. And this was through increased utilization of volunteers.
And staff.
Well, it just says volunteers, but
I
and
know,
staff
I
is
know.
true.
You know, well, we're not, it's in-kind service by our staff. I mean, so it costs us money to do this. They could be doing something else. I still don't like this. And my issue was never really that it was costing us money necessarily. I feel that, you know, our recording things on people's title is just not our job, and unless it's a punitive thing. And I don't get this at all. Any other questions? All right, there's been a motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Not in favor of this. And also, I don't know if you received a memo
Barrington?
from the preservation.
Also received email, I believe, from Howard Handler in terms of what they intend to try and do more with the realtors as
Oh,
well.
That would
So-
make perfect sense.
Right.
Perfect sense. I mean, we've had, what, one person come to us and say, I didn't know. All right. Well, I need a, was it 4-1? Okay.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 4-1. Okay. Did you vote for it, Alderman Burris? You did. Okay. So 4-1. Next item. Yes.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move item A7, approval of the 2014 special events calendar. Staff recommends City Council approval of the 2014 calendar of special events contingent upon compliance of all requirements as set forth by the special event policy and guidelines. And a special note that we've added 2 events to the lakefront.
Second.
I have a question on this. I'm sure it's here, but I can't see it. Like the Ridge,
Yeah,
it's city. So is that? That's why. That's why it's not on here.
It should be on there. I'm sorry if
Where
it's
is it?
not. Hold on one second.
See it?
Second. Are you looking at the report?
I'm looking at the report.
Okay,
On
the
the
staff
returning
report, page 170 at the very bottom, returning
170.
events. The last line,
Okay,
you'll see
okay,
Cub
I'm
Mobile
sorry,
Food
I'm
Truck
sorry.
event.
Okay, all right, all
Bike the
right.
Ridge.
And that was my other one.
Yeah, Bike the Ridge, the Flying Turkey Run. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there.
One second.
And you said food truck event?
The food truck event is there as well.
It's right before it, Ann.
Right before Bike the Ridge.
But is that the food truck event I'm thinking of, the Brummel Park?
Correct.
Concert and food truck event?
Yes, it is.
All right.
Uh-huh.
Stick that in there, like Brummel Park.
I would not
food
come here and forget.
concert.
You missed the deadline.
I missed this, I'm just,
By the way, Joe McRae, Parks, Recreation, Community Services. I felt the presence.
all right. But don't, I mean, this, I wish you would just spell it out, you know.
Okay.
Do we have dates?
We do. We do have dates, and I can provide that information if you like. Would you like to know,
I did not go through every permit.
is there a particular,
Like the Ridge, what date is it?
give me one
It's in the, it's
second.
on the,
What page? 75? No, Bike the Ridge is not. Well, that's just not true.
Give me one second.
You know,
Correct. Sunday, September 28th, 9 a.m. to 1.
196, okay, sorry. I just looked at a couple of these, I just couldn't plow through them all. Say the page again?
It's on page
196.
171.
No, 196.
Oh, and then look at Lakefront Park. events, but it must be something different.
Page 196 is the calendar of all events, and so Bike the Ridge is number 75 on page
Yep,
196.
I'm looking at it, right. Cool. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, didn't see that. All righty. When is the next special events committee meeting?
Typically, we meet every other Wednesday, so we'll have one this month.
All right, so would you make sure that you notify Judge Hanson?
Correct. We'll do. We'll be happy to do so.
All right.
Judge-elect Hanson, right?
Well, it's in the bag. All right, thank you very much. Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want a big welcome to the two new events. The bringing a bike race back to our downtown, I think, is great news for our downtown. And then also this Evanston Big Art and Big Fork Festival at the end of September sounds really enticing. And interestingly, it's being brought to us by I'm guessing, a professional production company with a lot of local ties. So,
Correct.
do you have any more information, Mr. McCrae, about the Big Art and Big Fork Festival?
Yes, just a little bit. It is being brought to us by Amy Amdor Productions. She has a company that does a lot of these types of events on the North Shore. She's got a great reputation, and they're looking to work with the city and also the Arts Council to bring that event to us in the fall.
And by that time in September, the students will be back in town.
Students will be back
Downtown
in
will be
town.
lively. I'm sure this is intended to
Correct.
make sure we maximize attendance, so.
Correct, and it is an
Really
away
great.
game for the NU football team, so we're sensitive
Yes,
to
and
that.
that football schedule, which is what governs. Great. Thank you for welcoming those two events.
No problem.
Yes.
Very good. All right, thank you very much, Joe. All right, all those in favor of recommending approval of the special events calendar to the council, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ms. Robinson, are there any items for discussion? I don't see any. All right. Motion to adjourn? Thank you. Thank you. We are adjourned.